Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning from wherever you're watching within this country, Kenya, or outside the country. I'm your host, Celesta Mary underscore RN. That is my YouTube channel. I want you to like it, I want you to share, and I want you to subscribe so that you can listen because I'm your host, your clinical nurse educator, and I'm also a mentor to many nurses. So, welcome to today's channel. We are beginning another new series on something new, something that will educate you who is at home, or you who, wherever you are, that you will be enlightened, that you will know more and you know what to do. So, I want you to sit back and listen to what I'm about to educate you on and tell you about. Karibu sana. Welcome back. Today I will be educating you about vital signs. What are these vital signs? Have you ever heard of vital signs or important indicators? There are about five major ones, and we have others. Whenever you go to a hospital, you find the nurse triaging you. You have different terminology used by different nurses. You find yourself being asked to come this side, see the nurse. They take your blood pressure, they take your temperature. These are some of them. And today you're going to learn more about these vital signs because they are vital. Why are vital signs important? Because they tell us whether you are normal, you are abnormal, or you are alive or dead. Because for sure, they can tell us whether you are alive or you are dead. Vital signs. They are so key. And these are observed physical signs that a nurse would look just at your chest and see how your chest is rising and falling and can tell. They can use a gadget like for the blood pressure machine, thermometer. They can use the thermogun on your head. Since COVID, we have thermogun. We no longer put them on under the armpit as we used to be. So vital signs is what you're going to learn today. What are they? What are these vital signs? Why are they so vital? Why are they so important? What do they help the health practitioner? Why is it that you cannot just walk inside the doctor's room and start talking about your condition? Why vital signs? Because they are vital, and you need to know, my viewer, because education will make you maintain your health much better. So, what are some of these vitals? I'm going to mention five key vital signs that you're going to learn today. Number one vital sign, temperature. I know you'll be wondering, why do they have to take my temperature every time I go to the hospital? Why do we take temperatures? What are they indicator of? What do they tell us about you and your health? Very important. Another thing we do is we take blood pressure. You have a machine that is a cuff that is kept on your hand that tightens up, and then in the end it gives a score, and then there is a hash, a bottom and a downward score. We will be learning on what they mean and what they can tell us about your health. Another sign that you say is pulse. We will be showing you what are some of the places that you need to check, because these vital signs can help you in the house to know what to do, and if they are not normal or abnormal, what action you need to take. Another vital sign is SpO2, that is the oxygen saturation levels. And I tell you, after COVID happened in 2019, we have more and more SpO2, oxygen saturation levels, being measured to see are your lungs operating well? Is oxygen able to get in very well to your body or not? What other vital signs have we not taken? We have another vital sign. It is pain. You find more often than not nowadays. It's the fifth vital sign. In hospitals, the nurse will keep on asking you, are you in pain of any way? How can you rate the pain? Is it too much painful? Or if you rate it from 0 to 10, what would it be? All those things we'll be learning in this episode, in this month of July, about our vital signs. So I want you to stay tuned as we continue to learn about what vital signs are they, what gadgets are used to take them, and why is it so important to have our vital signs taken when you go to a health facility. Stay tuned as we learn about. So we've been learning. In this episode, I'll be mentioning the 5 key. I said temperature, pulse, blood pressure, oxygen saturations, and what less? I've said temperature, pulse, blood pressure, SpO2, and pain. 5 key things. We do have other things that are taken when you go to a hospital facility, like your weight and your height. And you always wonder, why do they have to keep on telling me to step on the weighing scale? Why do they always have to take my height? This is what you're going to learn. Now, one important thing that you need to know, that before you take any vital signs, even before we talk about all the vital signs that we'll be talking about, they need to be taken accurately. You need to use the right machine to take the right vital sign. If you use a wrong machine, it will give you an error, and that can lead to a ripple effect and have the doctor do or act wrongly. Very important. When are these vital signs? Apart from knowing that vital signs are supposed to be taken correctly, there are rules on when to take them. Somebody cannot just walk in and they sit down immediately and you ask them to take their blood pressure. Like for example, there are some vital signs that you need to let the patient sit down, calm down first before you take them. What are some of the things that can affect when you are taking these vital signs? Somebody could have taken coffee and then just rushed into the hospital. If you are to take the pulse and the blood pressure, obviously even the temperature might be affected. Why? Because of the things you have drunk. If you have just drunk something immediately and you take a vital signs, it may cause some variations. Another thing could be illnesses. Some of the things that can make your vital signs to be abnormal. You might say, oh, me, I've been well, I've not done anything, but it is an indicator that there could be an illness that is going on. Something is cooking in your body that you don't know. But to us, it's an indicator to take precaution and work out on whatever it is. Other things could be activity. You have just been running. For those of people who live in Mombasa, you're running after the ferry and you're going to the hospital, and immediately you arrive, you're panting. If your blood pressure is taken, your pulse rate is taken, there might be variations. Why? Because of activity. So apart from having there being an illness, you might not be ill. You might just be involved in a physical activity that can cause your vital signs to be abnormal. Because today we are going to learn what are some of the effects or some of the results of vital signs. They could be normal, abnormal, or so deranged you cannot be able to pick them. That is when somebody has passed away or is no longer alive. So one of the things also, apart from exercise, it could be age. Did you know that not everybody who walks in the hospital and has a pulse of 50, and then you tell them, because your pulse is 50, then you are at the verge of dying? No, age matters. Small children with a pulse of 50, I would start resuscitation immediately. But an athlete like Kipchoge Keino, who comes in and their pulse is 50, I will not rush and do anything. I'll just sit and chat with them and ask them about how their run was. Why? Because some people, because of age differences, because of activity, their pulse rate is different. So you have to know, as a nurse practitioner or somebody who is nursing somebody in the house, you have to know the normal range, the abnormal range, and the not so normal, so that you need to take appropriate action. We always say you can cause an alarm for nothing. Somebody has just been taking a stroll, doing some exercise wherever they were. And all of a sudden things change and you take their pulse and you say this person has got high pulse rate and you call a code. That should not happen. So you have to have in mind, use the correct machine, have the correct rates at the back of your mind. What are the normals? What are the abnormals? What could also cause this high blood pressure? Could it be age? Could it be what somebody has eaten? Could be the environment. There are people who live in certain environments that make their blood pressures to be lower than the others. And I told you, people who live on the highlands, you'll find their vital signs will not be the same range as people who live in the lowlands. So you need to know and put on all those factors. Some people who are on medication, what kind of medication? That is why in the hospital, when you get into hospital, you find yourself being asked so many questions and you're wondering, why is this nurse bothering me with questions? Actually, people, there is a meme or there is a phrase that will say, you keep on asking me maswali ya sipitali. Why? Because these questions can assist you to know whether these vital signs that I'm seeing, these values that I'm seeing, are they normal or are they abnormal? Could there be other issues? Are there drugs you're taking? If you are taking high blood pressure drugs, and maybe you took 2 hours ago and you came to the hospital, if I take your blood pressure, it will be low. If you have been fasting the whole day, then you come to the hospital. There are some vital signs, if I will check, it will show they are very low. So what happens? Will I rush and now call the doctor immediately and yet you have been fasting? So all this history, it's so important. I never feel so tired in giving or sharing critical information because all this information is very, very important to everybody. Another thing that could also affect is your emotional status. You've just had very bad news. Somebody, a relative has been knocked over by a car. Somebody has been involved in another accident. And at that time, you take my pulse, it will be very high. Why? Because I have lost a relative. Why? Because I've just been sent out of my work. I've been, God forbid, I've been told you're no longer eligible. We cannot work with you in this hospital. Those are some of the factors. Emotions. You've just fought with your spouse, with your girlfriend. Or you are quarreling with a child who has spilled maybe or lost some money that was the only cash you had. And if you take your blood pressure, for sure it will be high. It will not be high because you're sick, but it will be high because there are emotional issues that are involved during that time. That is why it is always good to be calm, number one, when you're taking the vital signs. I normally say, if possible, sit down with all your legs flat on the ground. Not legs crossed, but all of them flat and relaxed. That is the best position to take vital signs. In the case whereby somebody is in the hospital or admitted, you don't take vital signs while they are seated. If they are sleeping, you can take it while they are asleep. And also position matters. Different positions also can affect the normal ranges. So all these factors need to be considered. So when do we take vital signs? You might be asking. Yes, it is true we take vital signs when you come to the hospital, outpatient clinic. Some people, when they're just going for normal end of year review to check your weight, that is also an opportunity. In the ward, when you're admitted, nurses have a tendency of checking your vital signs periodically. If you're from theater, we have rules that if you're from theater, your vital signs have to be taken every 15 minutes for the first. For 15 minutes while you are immediately from theater, and when you're in the ward, every 30 minutes for the first 2 hours, your vital signs should be taken. Why? Because you have been through a major operation or a minor operation, or you have gotten through those drugs, and those drugs can alter your normal system. So you need to be monitored closely as the drug wears off in your system. Another opportunity that we check vital signs also, apart from somebody who is from theater, somebody who is in the ward. We have cases of people, even before they go for a procedure, there are procedures, even if there are procedures before you do them, you now take somebody's vital signs, like procedure for blood transfusion. Before you transfuse blood to a patient, you need to know how are their vital signs. These important signs, how are they before they received this, they went through this procedure. Were they normal? So that if anything happens when the procedure is going on, you can easily tell that, no, this person was normal when they went into this procedure. Before they did a lumbar puncture, they were okay. But as the lumbar puncture went on, the blood pressure shot up and there was an accident, cerebrovascular accident. They went to a stroke. Very, very important to know. Before you give medication, nurses, before they give any medication, they also take vital signs. So you find a nurse, before you give you pressure drugs, there's some drugs that are for the heart. You need to check the pulse rate of the patient before, give the drug, and then after 30 minutes or 1 hour, you have to check again. Very, very important. When do we do this? Another very important thing that you need to know, my dear, that whenever you're going to a hospital, always ask. Remember, your health is your wealth. Your health is your asset. When the nurse has taken all those vital signs that we are going to go through one by one, when he has taken the temperature, the pulse, the oxygen saturation rate, the blood pressure, the pain scores, you need to ask them, how am I doing? Because those are physical indicators to tell us before we even take any blood sample from you, before you give us history of what happened, we already know basically in a general overview how we are doing. Vital signs. Very, very key. So I want you to stay tuned, subscribe and like, and let's continue to learn about these important signs that can help us to know whether we are normal or abnormal, or can indicate to the doctor whether somebody is dying or they are still alive. There is still some life in them that we need to take the next step and resuscitate them. Please, Celesta Mary _RN is my YouTube channel. Subscribe and like. Stay tuned as we go into the next. Welcome back. We are going to be talking about temperature. Right now, the weather in the whole of Kenya is a bit different. It's a bit cold. You can see me with a cool neck. People are keeping themselves more warm right now. But I want us to learn, what is this? Why is temperature so important when you come to the hospital setup? Now, we use a gadget when taking temperature. As much as long ago we would take the back of our hand and put it on your forehead and see whether somebody is warm or not warm. That is one of the things we used to use. However, we've had indicators or gadgets that you can use can easily tell you whether your temperature is high, whether it is low, or whether it is within the normal range. And I've told you, with temperatures, you have to know what is the age bracket. Because very young people, very old people, their temperature can range widely. Adults, they have the normal. We have a range for the adults. So what is this temperature? What does temperature tell you about? Now, you need to understand what happens in somebody's body before the temperature can rise or fall. When somebody is going into shock, or rather, when somebody's body system are shattering down, their temperature goes low in most of the cases. It can also happen that the temperature can go very high, especially during time of sepsis. So there's something we call low temperature, we call them hypothermia. High temperature, we call them hyperthermia. So somebody will come to your unit, or you have a thermometer in the house and you take it, and there are very many gadgets, as I said. We have 3 gadgets that we normally use for checking temperature. We have the armpit, the thermometer that you put under the armpit. Why? The armpit has been found to be a good place because it is close. It can easily tell us how your body is doing. We don't take temperature on the outside the skin. The only time we use outside the skin is when we're using the thermogun. And this one is very common during COVID period. You use a thermogun on your forehead. Sometimes we take it here on the neck, and it can easily peak because the way the machine has been made, or the way the gadget has been, it can easily peak the temperature of the skin. We also have another gadget. We have a thermometer that is now rarely being used because we have digital thermometer that is being used, and we have got the thermogun, and then we have got the annual or mercury thermometer that we used to use it for small children. In the anus, we put the thermometer and you can easily check whether the child has a fever or not. But that one is no longer being used. The most common one for infection control purposes is the thermogun, and the one that you put the digital thermometer under the armpit. The two have become the most common. So if you go to the hospital and something is being shot on your head like a gun, that is a thermogun, it can easily tell you what temperature of your body is. Now, before we go into the logistics of what is normal and what is abnormal, I told you, you can have very low temperature and it's abnormal. And you can have very high temperature and also is abnormal. There are very many different conditions that can make somebody's temperature to be very high or to be very low. And I say, when your temperature is very low, either there is an infection, sepsis that is going on, or you're going into shock. So you find your extremities are very cold. If you have come from a very cold place, like this weather, you are in a motorbike, and as you're coming with a motorbike, you had a fever in the house, you had chills, you're shaking, maybe and the armpit temperature was 38, but because you've come with a motorbike, and as you arrive in the nursing station, the nurse takes a thermogun and puts it on your forehead, and it says your temperature is normal. Why? It was used on the skin. So there are things that can affect the temperature and not give us the correct temperature of the body. We say being exposed to air, having showered with cold water, that could be also another thing. If you're exposed to ice or you've drunk something very cold, you have been, you have washed your face with a cold towel. Those are some of the things that can affect these thermal guns that we use on your forehead. Why? Because your forehead has been exposed to cold or warm touch, so that by the time you're taking the temperature, it will give a wrong reading. So it's always good to take time and relax and observe first. Don't be in a hurry to take immediately. Some people who are exposed in heat, you could have been from a salon and you're on a dryer. And as your hair was being, you're on a dryer, then you rush to the hospital like if it's in a vicinity. And when they take your temperature, it shows you it is very high. And you start to panic and you're wondering, why is my temperature so high? It's because you're exposed to some form of heat, blow dry or hair dryer. And that has caused your skin, because it's normally a skin temperature. You could have drunk coffee, hot cup of coffee, hot cup of chocolate. All this can alter your temperature. So it's always good to take the real temperature when all these factors have been considered, so that you give it time. Another 30 minutes you can retake. And that is why in the health sector, for children, you find it taken, and then after a while, it is taken again. We expose you abnormal temperatures. What about abnormally high temperatures? There are people generally, they are warm-bodied. I know human beings, we are warm-bodied, we are warm-blooded animals. However, there are people who are naturally, they are warm. A temperature of 37.5, 37.7 is normal. That is how their body is always. Could be having thyroid issues, because thyroid helps in regulation of temperature. So you find them generally, they just want to touch always. Their temperatures are high because of underlying conditions in the body that make them high. So you won't get alarmed when somebody who already has a normal existing high temperature as normal, and then you take it again, could be you don't need to do anything. Then there are people whose body are abnormally low, always, they are always cold. Whether it is cold weather, whether people are sweating, whatever it is. It could be genetics, it could be familial. However, majorly, there has to be something that is going on in your body when your bodies have extremes. So I always say this, in the healthcare setup, we have something you call normal distribution curve. In a normal population, 80% will mimic a certain characteristics. But we have the other 10% who are abnormally low and 10% who are abnormally high. And I said this could be because of a disease process that is happening within somebody. Temperatures. Very, very important. When you go to a health facility, get to know, what is my temperature? Is it high? Is it within normal range? Ask the doctor. And as you give information about what you have drunk, where you were, if you're a truck driver, staying on the engine, sometimes that heat is generated a lot. Or you've been in a car where there was AC, you had put on the AC, it's a bit cool and cold. When you go and take thermal temperature, of course, it will show it is cold, whereas it could be something that is going on. So temperatures are very key to our lives. What do you need to do? Stay tuned as we listen to what you need to do when your temperature goes either extremely high or extremely low, and the health practitioner will be able to assist you. Subscribe channel and like Celesta Mary _RN. Please share your question. Let me know whether you've been edified by whatever you listen to, whether whatever I'm speaking right now is helping you and is adding on to your life and to your knowledge. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We are talking about temperatures. Now, I want us to give us just a quick thing. When you are in the house, if you're a mother, you have a child, you're in the house, and maybe you have an armpit thermometer. You have a digital thermometer that you can put it under the armpit, that you have to wait until it clicks. It tells you it is ready. Then you know you have taken the right temperature. Because if you remove it prematurely, or you leave it too much, then it might start giving you errors. So what happens when the temperatures are very high? You're in the house alone, you're an adult, the temperature is very high, and you feel cold. And because mostly whenever your temperature starts going up, you start shaking. The body is trying to adjust. That's why you feel somebody having rigors when the temperatures are very high. So initially, you feel so uneasy. Temperature rise never makes anybody comfortable. It always makes you feel uneasy. The worst thing you can ever have. High fevers makes you feel so uneasy, you cannot stay, you are feeling so bad. The best thing to do, number one, is to remove all the clothing. We always say for children, undress. Take them to shower with warm, not with cold water, with warm water. Why? When you are hot and then you shower with warm water, it allows the skin pores to open, and when they open, the heat is released. So the easiest remedy in the house before you go to medication, expose. If you have a full neck like me, get it off. Rush to the bathroom, shower, and don't sponge yourself. Shower and don't dry your body. Leave it as it is. It allows the wetness to help your body to cool down. Very important. Now, when push comes to shove, you are unable to rush to the hospital immediately, we have a way that people normally use. Most parents prefer to use paracetamol. Actually, paracetamol has been found to be a very easy to use drug in the household, but unfortunately, it is becoming abused. Many young people, even old people, have been found to taking more abusing paracetamol. And that is why I don't encourage, as a health practitioner, to have medication in the house. Why? Because abuse, there's a tendency to get medication to be abused. And if a child gets and swallows all of them, their liver will be damaged. So we don't encourage having medication in the house. However, for fevers, we have Calpol. I'm not ascribing to any brand. However, paracetamol have been found to be effective, and it should not be given regularly. Sometimes, in the midst of panicking, you find a mother giving, after 15 minutes, giving another one. After 15 minutes, that is wrong. Medication should be given at intervals. So, if you have exposed the patient, you have removed the clothing, you have washed the patient, rush them to the hospital. If you have paracetamol, give it once, and now take the patient to the hospital. Why? Because fevers can cause a lot of damage if not taken care of. Very high fevers has been known to cause convulsion, especially among children. You have get very high fevers, they convulse, and sometimes in the midst of convulsion, if you don't know how to handle a convulsing child, they can easily aspirate, and that can lead to mucus or vomiters getting into the lungs, and the lungs shut down, and then more detrimental measures occur. Some people who never know whether they're allergic to any drug. That is why we don't encourage drug, just taking of drug anyhow, because Sometimes you may give somebody a drug that they're allergic to, or a drug that is interacting with already a drug that is existing in their body. Temperatures. The best remedy, once you have used the local, if you don't have a bathroom, maybe you are in a train, you just take wet cloth, start tepid sponging areas, the forehead, the neck, the armpits. It also helps cool off the patient. High temperatures. What about low temperatures? Low temperatures, somebody needs to be kept warm. They need to be given warm fluids. Cover them with blankets, put socks, put on cap. Very, very important to keep yourself warm so that your temperatures don't go so low. Because when they also go so low, your body is unable to pick up. Your body is at a state of shutdown. We don't want the basal metabolic rate to be lower too much, but we want you to be able to barely function so that other things can happen and function properly within your bodies. Vital signs, very vital. We've talked about temperature. Temperature is very key. We've talked about the gadgets that are used, digital thermometer, thermogun, or the one you put on the forehead. We've talked about what are some of the effects when you have very high temperatures. High temperatures can tell you and something is going on in your body. There's an inflammation process. There's infection in the body, and you need to act fast by removing the many clothes you've worn and rushing and showering with warm water, not cold water. And if you're very cold, cover yourself with blankets, socks, put a headgear, because your health is your priority. Do not let your neighbor, do not let yourself have high temperatures in their house without taking action, and also rushing to the hospital, because there you'll be assisted to avoid complications of very high temperatures or complications of very low temperature, because even low temperatures can cause you to die. Your body just shuts down kabisa, and you cannot be resuscitated anymore. My dear viewers, Celesta Mary _RN is my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for viewing. Stay tuned for next episode. We are going to learn about another vital sign that is vital, that will help you know or take better care of your own health, and also help your neighbors, and thereby save many lives, because your health is your wealth as much as my health is my wealth. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye.